Right out the gate, I'm going to say this will contain spoilers. If you haven't seen episodes 4 or 5 especially, go watch it and then come right back to me. Something that has always followed Ahsoka is her guilt for leaving Anakin. There is a constant what-if scenario. Maybe if she stayed around, Anakin doesn't become Darth Vader. After all, it's her master, her friend, and maybe even knowing how much he suffered under Palpatine adds to this guilt. Ahsoka has likely learned the full extent of what her former master did as Anakin and Vader. The Jedi destroyed, innocents all around the galaxy were victim to him and his regret, shown again and again. First, in her refusal to train Grogu in Mando Season 2, although that could have been because of Sabine. And again by Baylan Skoll, when he says, "Your legacy, much like your master's, is that of death and destruction." It opens up with Anakin, who I have to say looks fantastic, and he starts with asking if Ahsoka knows she lost the fight. And I could be reading too far into this, but when he asks that question, this might mean if she doesn't remember, she would be dead. But she does. So, he says there is a chance for her. He is there to complete her training, as Ahsoka reminded Hera earlier this season that Anakin never got to complete her training because she walked away. Anakin follows up with a simple, live or die. And they have a spar, and after a while Ahsoka lands a kick, joking that maybe there isn't anything left to teach. But clearly this lesson isn't how to wield a lightsaber, although I do think Anakin still has something to teach there. Anakin reminds her there is still something, and he slashes the path, Ahsoka falling, and all of a sudden we're back in the Clone Wars. And as a fan of original Gen 1 armor, it was so cool to see all those troopers just in live action form, and of course Captain Rex. If you were a fan of the Clone Wars, this has you covered. We see Anakin in the typical Clone Wars armor and young Ahsoka fighting amongst the clone brothers. But they're taken through a few scenarios, memories of where they've been in the past. Their first mission, which in fact was in Season 1 of Clone Wars in Ryloth. But at one point, Anakin said the Jedi were peacekeepers, but in order to survive, they adapted to become soldiers and generals. And in a way, it shows the downfall of the Jedi. And with Ahsoka, it emphasizes how she's in survival mode. But surviving isn't living. Surviving is just not dying. Ahsoka has only ever known war ever since she was young. Clone Wars and the Empire, and now the hunt for Thrawn to avoid another. She has fought her entire life, and I would normally describe her as stoic, cool, collected. But maybe she's sad, given up, and doesn't know what to do with her life. She lives on her ship, never staying in the same location. It's like the Empire is still reigning over the galaxy, and the Jedi are still being hunted. Ahsoka needs to commit to living, actual living, and not just existing, something which Anakin is trying to hammer home. Anakin, after praising her for being a warrior he trained her to be, she replies, "Is that all I am? You are everything that I am." And Ahsoka, out of frustration, "But my part of that legacy is death. You're more than that because I'm more than that. You're right. You are more, Anakin. More powerful and dangerous than anyone realized." And frustrated, "Is that what this is about? You have learned nothing. Back to the beginning." Anakin is trying to hammer home that he is not just powerful and dangerous. He is a master, a husband, a brother, a father, and so much more. He brought balance to the Force, and in the end, he is a victim to the Jedi's dogmatic view, forbidding attachment and not showing him how to deal with his emotions properly, turning him from a peacekeeper to a soldier. Anakin, by extension, Ahsoka, have a legacy that is so much more than death and destruction. Let's ignore everything I just said about Anakin for a second and look at this line of masters. Obi-Wan, arguably one of the most controlled Jedi there ever was. Someone who went through unbelievable hardships and stayed within the light. Qui-Gon Jinn, someone who is the true idea of a Jedi, listening to the Force over the Council. Dooku, who much like Qui-Gon grew dissatisfied with the way the Council ran things, and then Yoda. The way Anakin says how they are everything their master was, in addition to their own personality in a way, they are all a philosopher, the warrior, the peacekeeper, and it's understandable that this is hard for Ahsoka to remember considering everything she has been through. But much like Baylan said, and no doubt Anakin senses, she has not moved past the fact that she left Anakin and he turned to the dark side. Even if she could do nothing about it, there will always be a what if that is a source of guilt. I love how Anakin uses all forms available to himself to show the points he's trying to make. Because do you know who else was just surviving and stuck in the past? Darth Vader. Ahsoka is able to disarm Anakin and says, I choose to live. He leaves with a, there's hope for you yet. That is the end of the lesson. She's almost reborn. It feels like a religion, almost like a baptism. The way the water slowly rises covering her. And she goes from Gandalf the Grey to Gandalf the White. And for the first time in the show, it looks like we see genuine excitement. Ultimately, the lesson could be a few things. Your past doesn't define you. Her legacy is more than death and destruction. Balance. I mean, we literally saw every form of Anakin, from light to Vader and back to light. And it's never too late to learn. If anyone was going to teach that, it's Darth Vader. Ahsoka will leave this encounter reborn with forgiveness for herself, or at least understanding, which will lift the weight from her shoulders, allowing her to focus more on the here and now. I think something I've really enjoyed was the use of Vader as a lesson. It genuinely feels like Anakin didn't only restore balance in the galaxy, but also within himself. Seeing him switch from Revenge of the Sith back to normal upon seeing Ahsoka learn the lesson was something I adore. Qui-Gon is my Jedi, but these moments that Anakin has is nothing short of amazing. Although, did you guys see if Ahsoka had Sith eyes for like a split second? The timestamp is 25 minutes and 18 seconds, and I'll also show a picture right now. Maybe this is to show her own balance, but some things definitely felt a little dark side from her, between using the Force to make someone a literal blaster shield. For the rest of the show, we'll see a new Ahsoka, and I'm hoping that Anakin hasn't completed her training yet, just because those two together were simply amazing, and the actor they used for the young Ahsoka was fantastic. Now, apparently, there are some unused voice lines that we've heard from the trailer that we haven't heard in the show, so it is likely, unless they've cut it, that we will see more Anakin, and I am here for it. And obviously, I'll be here at the watch party as well. But let me know your thoughts. Talk about literally anything Star Wars in the comments. Me discussing Star Wars is where I am happiest. But always remember, the Force will be with you. Always.